man. It was really great, the last one. So
Awesome. Okay, so I'm recording. I'm going to cut this part out at the beginning. This is going to turn out to be a podcast, which
right,
Jay and I have been talking about. So,
okay,
um, yeah, so that's what. That's if you're okay with it. If you're okay with the conversation at the end, that's what we'll end up going.
absolutely.
Yeah. How was your Father's Day?
It was pretty good, a little low key, because most of the kids slept till like 1. So, but we
Nice.
went putt-putting the night before and had ice cream and stuff. How about you?
Oh, that's great. It was good. I like to keep Father's Day low key too.
Yeah,
Like my wife is all about like going out to eat and stuff, but for me, it's like I just want to hang out and chill. So
right.
we went out to dinner the night before for a friend's birthday, at this like weird beach place that was socially distancing. So we were like 10 feet away from every table. It was very strange, but there's live music, so it was fine. I didn't care. And then, and then we went
Well,
to, yeah. And then we went to, I felt like I was eating on an island. I was like all by myself, and like all the tables were like, and then we went to, then in the morning, the kids went to my parents' house. So I got time by
nice,
myself. Yeah. And
nice.
yeah, so it was fun. And then I went to my mom's house. I planted a ton of trees for
Oh,
her, which is good. But yeah,
cool. Well,
yeah.
good. Yeah, I'm glad you had a good time.
All right, so let's get going. I've got 3 things in the story
Okay,
that I kind of wanted to highlight. So I'm just going to introduce you, and then we'll
okay.
do it. Is that cool?
And just an FYI, this is for a contest that I'm entering in.
Ooh, I didn't
So,
know that. Cool. So
yeah,
I'll make sure we talk about that. Are you okay to talk about that?
absolutely, whatever.
Awesome.
We're good.
All right, so I'm with SA Schneider or Steven.
Yep.
SA is your pen name, and you have 5 books on the market, if I'm remembering, or 4 books
I,
and a short
I
story.
have one main book
Okay,
and several short stories surrounding it, and then I have another set of short stories that are going to become a book. So,
perfect.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a list, but it's a little bit um, it's hard to tell. There's
yeah, yeah,
one main book and then a lot of short stories.
yeah. I love it. I think it's great. I got to read one of the stories from your Town Hall Magic series, and it was
Yeah,
YA fantasy, really fun. Um, so totally, after this, people should go check that out because it was really
that's cool. I appreciate that. I've got some others that I want to pass on to you and go through you before I release the main book. It's I call it the cozy spy thrillers.
nice.
It's like secret agents, kind of like a Padawan and a trainer,
Very cool.
and it's in an alternative Earth that has a little bit of steampunk to it, kind of Dick
Nice.
Tracy.
I love it.
So those have been doing really well. Those stories, even better than the Town Magician stuff. So
That's cool.
I think I want to push those a little more coming up.
It sounds like a nice combo because I know when I read thrillers right now or watch thrillers on TV, the world's kind of crazy. So I need a little bit of the cozy.
Right.
I need a little bit of like I started watching this British show called Marcella this week, and it's so dark. And I was like, I can't do this right now. It's just too much. So
Right.
yeah,
And that's Doctor Who's perfect because it's kind of quirky and tongue in cheek,
yeah,
you
Doctor.
know?
So we're doing the piece we're talking about today is a Doctor Who fanfic, which I was super excited because I'm a super Doctor Who nerd. I love Doctor Who. So where's the piece coming from, and tell us a little bit about it.
Well, there's a company in England, obviously, that they're called Big Finish, and every year they do the audiobooks. They do like the official Doctor Who
Ooh,
audiobooks.
nice. Okay.
I equate them to like Brilliance here in the States
Yeah, yeah.
because they do a nice setup like that. But they every year they do a contest that anyone can enter, and if you win, they do your story for free and they release it at Christmas time. So
Nice.
no compensation, but you get to
Dude,
write an
whatever.
official Doctor Who story. It becomes
Yeah,
canon. So
yeah. I one time had a company call me and be like, I had written this story that was all dialogue. I had a company call me one time and they're like, hey, we'd like to perform that for our radio program. And I was like, yes, yes. And
cool.
they're like, do we need to talk about money or anything? I was like, oh, no, just do it. I don't care. I was just so excited to hear like professionals read one of my
Right.
stories. I was like, yeah, do that. So
That's funny you say that because a friend and I were talking about podcasts and with the way the world is that, they used to do the old radio dramas. And I think that may be coming back a bit. There are podcasts
I
that do it.
I listened to a bunch of them. I think
Yeah.
I really really like them.
Honestly, that was one of my thoughts before with some of my other
Yeah.
stuff. I'd love to do a radio broadcast, old time radio show sound effects and everything.
Yeah, and we're such an audible, like ear focused culture right now.
Yeah.
I think it's really smart. Okay,
Okay.
so before we get into the story, who's your favorite doctor?
This one, the 11th.
The 11th. Which one is this? Wait,
It's
you got to
Matt
give
Smith.
me Matt Smith. Okay,
Yep.
I was wondering. I was reading and I was trying to figure out which one you were writing to.
And
The hair gave it away.
yeah, and I think I can add a few more things to kind of make it him.
Yeah,
He,
yeah,
I like him because he fits my personality more. He's kind of curious, a little childlike.
yeah,
Uh, Tennant's a real close second. He's kind of snarky and funny, but I
yeah.
think Matt Smith has grown on me the most.
Well, and Smith has that like kind of dark side to him, which is nice. Like Tennant was just always kind of goofy and
Right,
very like in control, but Matt Smith has that like little bit of piercing bite to him at times, which I
right,
liked. Yeah.
yeah.
And Matt
So
Smith
far,
also
the only
definitely had the best companions. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
so far the only doctor I haven't liked is the second one.
I see. I don't think I've ever gone that far back.
Oh,
I
well,
started with, it was a Chris Evans. I don't remember.
Eccleston.
Eccleston. That's his name. I started with Chris Eccleston. And
Okay.
so I'm a modern doctor guy. I
Yeah,
don't know any of the old ones.
I've got some COD going on, so I went back all the way till one and watched everything I straight
Oh,
eight.
nice.
It's years worth of life there.
Yeah, that's commitment. That's awesome. I love it. Okay, let's dig into it. I'm going to share my screen so we can both look at it together. Because I've got it up here. So as we get into it, was there anything specifically you wanted to talk about, or did you get last time we did this? You didn't get my notes until after the call.
Right? No,
Did you get my
it was
notes
great.
beforehand this time?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And my biggest thing, obviously, is capturing the feel and the voice of the doctor.
Yeah.
If it doesn't sound and feel like the doctor in text, it doesn't matter what you say it is. So that was my biggest concern.
Okay, great. So we'll hit that too. I highlighted some yellow places here because they kind of marked what I wanted to get into with you, and places that I think you can build it up. So I think just overview, the scene is like the setting you've got is great. The idea of like taking a doctor to a sci-fi convention is fantastic. Like I really liked that concept. I loved the putting him in modern America, PA is fun, right? Like that's a nice place.
Yeah.
Just a nice setting for the doctor that isn't typical. Like I don't, especially since this is a contest, I don't imagine 2/3 of the entries are going to have him in like, romantic England, like,
Right.
that like castles and Baroque language. And the problem with trying to pull that off is you've got to nail the language. So this was a really smart move by you. Like putting a great character in a location where you can speak the language is really good.
And it worked well because my son mentioned it, and I thought it was a great idea because we've been to a lot of these conventions, so I have a good idea of what they are like, and I
Yeah.
thought he could fit well.
Yeah, he fits. And so later in the story, the doctor comes to a doctor vendor, which is just, it's fantastic. So all of that's I really enjoyed all of that about the story. I thought it was great. I also think you really got the childlike humor of the doctor, which is part of something that we all really love. That like you got a lot of the doctor's voice. There's a couple places where I'm gonna ask you just like to tweak it a little bit, but I think you got it really well. So the big things I wanted more of, the first one is in this opening paragraph. These opening 2 paragraphs. You've got Gracie, who's a young girl, and she's standing in line with her dad, waiting to get in, right? Which is a fantastic opening scene because we don't know what they're waiting to get into, and we don't really know what's going to happen or where the doctor's going to appear from. Right. So I liked the opening's great. Builds good tension, like, sets the world up a little bit. you have this line in here, though. He stood in line with a bunch of other guys, all of them laughing and talking about their encounters, and none of them paying attention to the weird noises. They were here to talk about strange things, and then they missed it when something strange happened. So this is a great setup, especially since you're writing this for a potential audio drama. I want to hear them talking.
Good point. Yeah.
I want to hear, and it happens again down here too. In the line, the father said nothing as Gracie got away. He didn't even glance, but he glanced her way as he chatted. I want to see that, right? Like I want to see the chat and really feel it. And this is one of those things dialogue can do for us that's so great, is kind of bring us into this moment with these men standing in line and this girl kind of around their ankles in conversation. Another thing that I think you can really do here is, because it's a doctor story, I assumed we were in medieval England. Like, I just did. So you'll see in my note over here on the side, I wrote you kind of a little sample conversation of like what, and it's about his cow. Right? So like, because I'm assuming these are farmers in medieval England just because it's a Doctor Who story. So that's where like 50% of them occur. So like around London, you know, somewhere. So I think you can use the conversation here to really set your setting, especially if you have them talking about, you know, aliens, have them referencing automobiles, like have them talking about cars, have them talk about things that start to orient the reader to the time they're in.
Got it.
Right.
And
like
I when I read that, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds perfect and great.
Yeah. And it's you have a great opening here because you've got this, you know, the great thing about children protagonists is that they provide an immediate level of vulnerability. And the reader is immediately concerned for their well-being, right? So you've got a great setup here with a child protagonist because who's being ignored by her father, because we're all immediately worried about her, right? Like we're all concerned that she's going to be okay. So the setup is great. Like you're pulling me in really well. The scene is great. I just want more clues as to what's happening with the dialogue.
Got it.
Another piece I think you need to nail down a little bit more. And it really comes up
before we hit that.
Oh yeah.
If we go back, that thing where you gave the suggestions on the talking.
Yeah.
Actually, you thought it was medieval farmers, but I'm thinking it was alien guys talking about alien, because you talk about cows and there was all those cow mutilations and stuff years ago. I was like, oh yeah, that's actually kind of funny. That's I love really that. It works either way.
That's awesome. I was like going for the okay, because I had read when I always read it through once, so I was going for the you know, alien UFO thing and him talking about but I originally was like, well, if it were modern day, I'd write something about you know, him driving in his car and seeing a light in the sky and he knew that light did this thing. But I was like, but I don't know what a medieval. I guess he's going to talk about his cow. I don't know what. So
it worked either way.
Great. Good. Yeah. So, but that's really funny. Yeah. So something in this opening, I think, just cracking us right into that dialogue, and yeah.
And I can really see how that would fit and actually engage the reader even more. I can see that after you pointed it out. I mean, it seems obvious now.
Yeah, well, it always, I mean, that's why we get second eyes on things, because second eyes are, you know, spill everything out. Speaking of the men in line, so I'm going to skip down to the end. You have these, I'm stepping down here to page 9 and 10. You have three scenes with vendors. There's the initial vendor, there's the with black rocks, there's the vendor with the sonic screwdriver, and then there's her father. And right now, they all sound very similar. Mm-hmm. They're all angry and bothered. And I wanted you to play out those voices a little bit better. Give us some distinction between those three vendors. So I would maybe make one of them more of kind of a used car sale, wheel and deal type guy. like
Okay.
trying to sell him on the black rocks, trying to explain to him why they're so valuable and why they're worth, you know, as much as they are, and like trying to get money out of him, rather than the like put my stuff down and walk away. um and either the father or the other vendor, I'd try to have an intellectual conversation, which is something Doctor Who does really well in the story, is people explaining to Doctor Who what space is.
Right.
Especially the Matt Smith version of Doctor Who would always just kind of politely listen and then just be like, no. Well, actually, like, you know, and
Right.
having that kind of like back and forth about what they think it is, it would be really great when you get to the dad saying like, hey, this piece of metal, when the doctor's like, this is just earth metal, having the dad try to explain to the doctor why it's not earth metal would be a
Yeah.
really great kind of.
Yeah. I got that. Okay.
Yeah, and I think him moving from vendor to vendor is really great. Um, it's a nice scene. You can picture it, like the way you've described it is good, because I can picture him moving from table to table and just like fiddling with stuff on tables,
Yes.
which, you know, that like breaking of norms that Doctor Who does really well. I just wanted their voices to sound. I wanted him interacting with more characters.
Got it. And that makes sense. And originally, when I had that part of the scene, it was way more boring. It was just Gracie walking him to this table and next, and I'm like, oh my god, that is not what he would do. So
No, yeah,
uh, I think what you just suggested would up it even more, amp it up.
yeah, what you have is good. It just needs to be like turned up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And if you can give him, knowing that this is going to a competition with an audio drama, they they are going to want to play into their different characters and voices. Right? Like whenever I enter a contest, I always stop and go, who are the judges and what do they want? Right? Because contests are always subjective. It's always based on what do the judges enjoy and like. Like one time I sent in a story that I thought was a really fantastic thriller piece, and I thought for sure I was going to get in the top 10. Like I was like, oh, I'm guaranteed. And I had like multiple people read it. They all loved it. They're like, oh yeah, this is great piece, really good, it's so great. And so I sent it in and I didn't even rank the top 10, and I was so
Yeah.
confused. And then I read the top 10 and they were all literary fiction. And then I went and looked at the judges, and they were all literary fiction agents. And I was like, oh,
Well,
well, this is
know the audience.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're writing for an audio drama, I think the more characterization you can put into their voices, the more you can distinguish these vendors, the more they're going to engage with the text.
And I think that could also lead to some really good Doctor Who humor,
Mm.
the things that make the fans chuckle and appreciate the character. Each Doctor is a different character, and you know, in this case, Matt Smith, the way he handles bouncing around between and getting excited and talking to him, yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
And I liked, so just to bring, this is just a random thing, but I really like how you have the doctor engaging with Gracie. Um, I am wondering, what age did you picture Gracie at?
Yeah, eight-ish. I
Okay.
didn't want her too old where she's becoming independent.
Yeah.
She's still young, looking up to her dad, daddy's girl.
Okay.
And
You're nailing the like. I was putting her. She's almost too mature for 6, but like 7 to 9 is kind of where I had her in my head.
and I always kind of pictured, well, I think a Doctor Who story is a perfect thing to write for a YA author. I mean, there's nothing in it that kids of all ages, you know, so
Yeah.
for me that works. And just about everything I write has a child protagonist, so putting those two together worked really well for my writing. I mean, once I started doing it, I'm like, oh man, this is perfect. um, so yeah, and I think in a way, when she's with the doctor, almost she is maybe a little acting a little more mature, and he's almost acting a little more immature, kind of playing off of that a little bit, almost a hint that hey, she could be a companion,
Yeah.
you know, that type of thing.
So this is, I'm totally going to nerd out here for a second, but I think it applies to what we're talking about. There's a scene in the introduction of Matt Smith where he meets
Amy.
Potts. Yeah, Amy Potts as a little girl,
Right.
And one of the things that struck me about him that I hadn't seen David Tennant do is because he's so tall, he bent down to her level to talk to her, which is a very defining aspect of his character, right? Like
Yes.
the coming down to her eye line to talk to her. I almost want you to find, like, I'd encourage you to find some way to put that kind of motion into him.
I actually watched that episode before writing this.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, it had
Oh.
so much when it was introducing him, like trying the food and I hate that and spitting it out, and very
Yeah.
humorous actions. And actually, the part with him holding out his elbow for her to take it, and she thinks of it. Oh, that's what the queen does. I was kind of doing that where he's giving her that attention, and like when he walks off and turns around and says, "Hey, you coming with me?"
Yeah, that
Those
was a
types of
really
things.
nice moment. That was a nice connection between the two of them.
Yeah,
Did a good job.
I'll look, see, I could probably get some more in there without really changing anything.
Yeah, he also has
because it needs to be a focus.
Yeah, and he also has a phrase in here when you're talking about like trans-dimensional waypoint, you got to work in the phrase timey-wimey.
Yes, I was thinking of that, and I was trying to figure out where to put it in. It would probably be great because that here at the beginning, because it would probably make Gracie laugh. And
Yeah.
that's and I know you mentioned something about, she doesn't seem real scared of him, and I was trying to bring that out, that he just seems so harmless and childlike himself that she has no fear of him. And again, that hint of, hey, she kind of has that companion capability.
Yeah.
They seem like the minute they meet him, they're just bam, drawn to him.
There's like a connection, and you definitely get that. I liked it a lot. Okay, the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was Gracie's relationship with her father needs some work.
Okay.
Her motivation when she's with her father, at times it felt to me like she was trying to get his attention. And at times it felt to me like she was frustrated with him. While both are possible, I think in a 5,000 word short story, you need to pick one. And where I think it really plays in is what Gracie's intention is with the doctor. So like if Gracie's frustrated and feels like she's going to be ignored, then she's going to be excited that she has a companion with her.
Yes, and that's what I was wanting to get.
Okay. If Gracie, the other way to go with it, and I saw it bleed in a little bit, is if Gracie wants to be there in order to win her father's approval, then she's going to want to show the doctor to her father.
Yes. Yep. You're right. Yep.
Does that make sense? Like, so
absolutely.
There's that tension is there, but the second one, her wanting to show the doctor to her father, we need some lines of her trying to, so if you expand the conversation with the vendors, you need her pulling him from table to table to get him to her father. So that she can like, look at what I found, Dad. Look at how amazing.
And I like that. Yes.
Yeah. The other way to go is for her to follow him from table to table and be happy to have a companion there, and then they just stumble into her dad's table. So like I think one way or the other is going to help. Like going either way, either or will be helpful.
Got it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it does come into these conversations with the vendors and how they pull in and out, how they pull away from the vendors will really sell that ending. Yeah. There was one more spot I wanted to look at. I thought I highlighted it in yellow, but I may not.
That one part you put where this is an odd detail, where the purse, the satchel.
Yeah.
I put it, I couldn't resist. I think I was actually channeling my inner Stephen King, because that's the type of stuff he does all the time.
Yeah.
So I have noticed that I do that occasionally. My mind just thinks, I don't know, gets in that mode, and it just comes out.
Yeah, and by the odd detail, so and again, this is my preference, right? Like every writer has their preference, and this doesn't actually have to do with dialogue, it has to do with setting, but this is just my personal preference, is that like I lean heavy on the if you show me a gun, it better show up in the plot somewhere. So like if you note an odd article of clothing someone has, or like they concentrate on something. Like I need it to be something. And
Right.
so that's why it gave me pause, because my personal preference is like, yeah, it should mean something. Like that should be something there.
I think, partly I was saying it to show the disconnect between her father and her, that her father doesn't really listen to her.
Oh, I
And
like it.
so maybe I just need to add a little so it's clear. But that's where my thinking was putting it in, besides Stephen King inhabiting my body for a moment.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, if somebody's going to inhabit your body,
Right.
yeah, let him have. If he's going to inhabit your body and write, let him have it. That's what I say. Let him have it. Yeah, so the maybe bringing it in at the beginning when you get into the conversation with the guys, maybe bringing it in at the beginning with her mentioning it and her correcting him, like that would bring out that use dialogue to bring out that contrast. Is that like him saying like, "Don't forget your satchel," and her being like, "It's a purse, Dad." Like that kind of.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Again, you got to watch her motivations there. Like, while it's true that characters are complex and can have multiple feelings at one time, in a 5,000 word short story, like you got to get to one point, got to get it across.
Right.
It's hard. It's near impossible to have multiple themes in a short story. And if the theme you want to have is, girl using the doctor to get her father's attention and being rewarded in the end with the attention of the doctor, right? Like that kind of like theme that happens where like somebody's looking for something and the doctor ends up providing it in kind of a roundabout way.
Right.
That kind of plot theme is really all you have time for in 5,000 words. Like you're gonna get to do that one thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Jack Palance, right? That one thing.
Yeah. That one, you get one thing.
Yeah.
One secret. Yeah. I loved the ending, by the way. I liked the stealing of the screwdriver and the everybody running out to see the TARDIS. Like it was a very classic and great Doctor Who.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Ending. Yeah.
It took a bit of thinking, so I'm glad it came across well.
Yeah, it wasn't where I expected it to go, but I really liked it. It was nice. It was nice Doctor Who hijinks at the end, which was
good.
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And again, I really felt like you hit the Doctor's voice. That's what I was going to talk to you about. The other thing I wanted at the beginning is, and I think I might have noted this, but I don't know where I noted it. So I'm going to stop scrolling my page. Each of the doctors, before I make us all seasick, each of the doctors have a unique dress.
Yes.
A Doctor Who fan is going to get which doctor it is right away if you just describe and I'm trying to. It's been years since I've watched it, but he had a trench coat, didn't he?
No, Matt had the bow tie.
He had the bow tie. That's right.
And
you do reference the bow tie.
Yeah, and like the professor jacket with the patches on the elbow.
With the patches on the elbows. That's who he was. Yeah. Yeah. Which one had the trench coat? The warden.
Oh man, that was clear back. Yeah, that was the 80s somewhere. Yeah. Well, I think Eccleston had a trench coat, didn't he?
Maybe.
A long coat of some sort.
See, it's been like 2 years since I watched a Doctor Who episode, so I'd have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, now we're gonna get all the Doctor Who fans.
I know. And now they're gonna be all up in your mentions.
Yeah, all the guys over in England are like, you aren't true Doctor Who fans. You live in the wrong country.
It's pretty funny. That's true. And I'm a terrible Doctor Who fan because I won't pay for them. I wait for them to come free on Amazon Prime. So I'm awful.
Well. Actually,
that's why I haven't watched one in 2 years, because I'm all caught up to what's been free on Amazon Prime.
Well, they've moved. They're not on Prime anymore.
No,
they moved somewhere else. Oh, I don't remember now off the top of my head. I know you can get them on Acorn.
Okay.
I think there's one other spot. But I went and found the Blu-rays. Like it was the complete Matt Smith, the complete David Tennant.
Oh, that's
They were
cool.
like $20.
That's cool. Like, yeah. All right, so overall, I think it's a great piece. I'd play out Gracie's voice a little bit more, really work her as to like what she's trying to do with the Doctor. I'd play out the vendors more and give them each unique voices and let the Doctor play with them a little bit.
Okay.
And I'd
Yeah.
take that opening scene and just some, kind of quick exchanges from the father and his cohorts. You can even make the other, if you want to do callbacks, you can even make the other vendors his cohorts. So, whatever voice you establish in the vendors, just bring them back up at the top of the scene.
Yeah. Okay.
To be the ones talking.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Really nice work. Well done.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it.
Oh yeah.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are you working on next?
I actually, a guy on Fiverr approached me. His dad recently died, and he wanted to create a tribute to him. So he had this idea for a pirate story where him and his brother and nephew are pirates looking for his dad's lost treasure, or the Gary the Gold's
that's
lost
so
treasure.
fun.
So I've been writing some quick stuff, nothing major. It's not like a huge long piece, but it just, doing the Johnny or the Jack Sparrow in my head and getting some stuff out, and he's been loving it.
Oh, that's great.
But other than that, I'm finishing up book 2 of Town Magician, and then I've got the Martin and James stuff, and I've been doing a serial for the Oddish Questers on my website. So each week or every 2 weeks coming out with a chapter.
Oh, that's cool. How fun.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Well, I love the tribute piece because it's, has that built-in compassionate audience, which is really great.
Yes. And we've come to a deal. He wants to just get it done for his brother in that. I gave him the suggestion, why don't you put it up as a donation thing? Hey, if you like the story, donate to my father's favorite charity, and then all the money goes to his father's favorite charity in his father's name. He loved that idea.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, that's probably where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to put a copy on my website pointing to the same thing. Hey, this none of this goes to me. It goes to this charity. Here's why. And
that's such a great project. I love that idea. That's really neat. All right, man. Well, thanks for hitting me up when you got another scene.
Will do.
You want to talk to you. And thanks for hanging out tonight.
Very good. I hope all the kids walking by weren't too distracting.
No, not at all. Didn't distract me at all. Yeah, and I'm so ADD. If they didn't distract me, then they weren't distracting.
Good. All right, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Yeah. See you around, Steven. Bye.